Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the People's Power Hour, sponsored by the People's Power Assembly and the Prisoners Solidarity Committee. You can follow us on Facebook, People's Power Assembly, or sign up on our webpage, peoplespower.assembly.org. It is important to talk, but it is more important to act. We have a lot to talk about this evening. I am certainly thankful that you guys decided to join me today. Miss Van is in the hospital, and we want to extend our prayers and everything towards Miss Van, that she makes a speedy recovery and is back with us in a couple of weeks. But we're going to get the topic of this show is aptly named Hogan. He's nobody's hero. We absolutely want to get into this discussion. So I'm going to read this portions of this letter. Now, I read it last time, but on the last show, but there was an absolute egregious error. I wouldn't say it's egregious. We can forgive her. Rachel Chasson wrote the article, but in an earlier version, it incorrectly said that 15,000 people would be affected by Governor Larry Hogan's decision to end the federal unemployment benefits. The number is nearly 250,000, according to the State Department of Labor. So the article has been updated. I'm just going to read a little bit from it. It says Maryland will end enhanced federal unemployment benefits next month. Governor Larry Hogan said, and will require people getting unemployment checks to prove that they are looking for new jobs. Hogan cited the widespread availability of vaccines and a tight labor market in explaining his decision, which, according to the State Department of Labor, would affect those 250,000 people. He said benefits, which add $300 a week, provided important temporary relief during the coronavirus pandemic, but are no longer necessary. Wow. The American Rescue Plan provides for the benefits through September 6th. With Democratic leaders stressing the importance of fully reopening schools and child care centers and more people being vaccinated. Okay, so before adults can resume full-time work, but there are 24 states which have Republican governors, and they are absolutely taking steps to end their funding early. Also, I just want to read this last line, then I'm going to let you jump in there, Stephen. And we need as many people, and you, Andrew, we need you guys to just go in on Governor Hogan, because I'm really like angry over here. It says Hogan's decision was sharply criticized by Democratic state lawmakers. And so I'll tell you guys about what Senator President Bill Ferguson had to say. He's a Democrat from Baltimore. And he had something, like there is a lot of power in the statement that he made. He said, now I have to get, it feeds into a hard right-wing narrative that denies human dignity, put profits over people, and put politics over sound economic research. That is a very powerful statement. Stephen, go ahead and tell us your story. We need as many people to hear it as we can. Go ahead. Tell us what's going on with you. What happened initially, everything, the entire story.
Well, like on previous show, I was working in the catering department at a hotel, Westin BWI, as a bartender. And when COVID hit, I was laid off, applied for unemployment, didn't receive unemployment for about 2 months in the beginning of the pandemic. But eventually I received benefits, and I was receiving unemployment. My employer even stated because of the pandemic, they have no idea or clue when things will open back up, and that we should consider ourselves permanently furloughed.
Right. Indefinitely. Yes.
Definitely. And so I'm one of the lucky ones in the sense that in 2020, for the most part, I was receiving my benefits.
Okay.
Then in 2021, my benefits stopped for about 2.5 months while my bills were increasing, while I was, having mental health issues with the anxiety and stress of not being able to pay my bills. Then I spoke at a press conference about my situation. And lo and behold,
Yeah.
the next Monday after that weekend, they reinstated me and they started paying me my unemployment, my benefits. But the crazy thing is that that only lasted for a month because when Hogan announced that he was cutting off the CARES Act, the $300 and also the other programs from the CARES Act,
Yeah.
he basically really was cutting off. He said July 3rd was the cutoff date, but we've been hearing from the Unemployed Workers Union from dozens of people, at least 10 to 12 calls a day of a lot of people who the system crashed and they told everybody to reapply and haven't received any benefits. So a lot of people have not received any benefits from the beginning. Some people have received benefits temporarily for a month or two, then they stop. And a majority of people have been cut off right now. And so it's just a tragedy. And words don't even describe the anger that I have towards Hogan, because like one of the women who spoke at our town hall meeting said,
Yeah.
you know, we did everything that they asked for us. We put on the masks, we got vaccinated. You know, Hogan wanted to pretend like he was some moderate Republican, that he opposed Trump or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, he is in the pocket of big business and corporate interest,
Right.
and really doesn't care about
Yeah.
the average day worker.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. I agree with everything that you said. It is, I'm trying to think of, it is egregious. Now, that's the word I want to use for Governor Hogan for attempting to, how are you going to give back CARES Act money? It does not belong to you. It does not. And there was a lady who was at that town hall who said she was making over $30 an hour. And why would you want this lady to go and do, like, most of the jobs are in hospitality. And I was gonna say, you know, your job as a bartender, Stephen, that was one of the professions hardest hit. You know, as a bartender, you know, there was nobody coming out, bars were shut down, you know, even restaurants. So naturally they're going to have all these jobs. But I think if a person is, what we can assume that folks are looking for jobs now. I don't think people want to be home, but some people have to be home due to daycare issues. I don't know how many daycare centers in Maryland are up and running, you know, to full capacity. But we want you to jump in there. You go ahead, Andrew, say whatever you want to say, because we really need to get out there.
Oh man, you sure you want to get me started on Governor Hogan?
I do, absolutely. Great.
So, okay.
Go ahead. Get started.
I think there's no clearer illustration of where Governor Hogan's priorities are than this announcement he made last week. I don't know if y'all saw this. He announced last week he's providing $10 million in relief for live entertainment venues.
Oh my goodness. You know what?
I love a live show as much as anybody else.
Right.
But I mean, it's a very clear indication he's willing to spend the money for his business buddies.
That's exactly. That's right.
I've had the unfortunate honor, you know, for better or for worse, of having to pay very close attention to Governor Hogan in most of my professional life. I've worked in a couple public sector unions, and when you work for the state or you work in the public sector, the governor's your boss, right? So I've gotten to see for almost his entire administration. When I started working for the first public sector union, he had come in the year before, and the feeling in that office was, well, you know, we hate this governor, but it's been great for the union because union members don't like this governor either. And It makes them want to act.
I don't think
it makes them want to join the union. It wants to make them. It makes them want to fight for their rights in the workplace, and also fight for what they're owed as far as wages go, as far as benefits go. Every single round of negotiations, we had to really go to the mats just to get people what they're owed. State employees are supposed to get a step increase, what's called a step increase, every budget cycle. That's every year.
I have a lot of friends who work for the state. It's not happening though.
Mm-hmm. You ask them when was the last time they got a step increase. Sometimes while I was there, we were able to get them a 2% cost of living adjustment one year, and then another 2% cost of living adjustment another year. But that was after fights and fights and fights at the bargaining table.
Right. And
they do not want to pay these employees.
Yeah, that's minuscule. Come on now.
Yeah. It barely. I mean, it's. I would never even have to sell people on this when I was trying to get people to sign up to join the union to get involved with bargaining. They would say it themselves. They'd say, cost of living has gone up and up and up every single year. These are people who've been working for the state 30, 40, 50 years. They've seen their insurance, the cost of groceries, the rent just goes up and up and up, but their wages stay stagnant.
Right.
What they wouldn't know is worker productivity goes up even faster than the cost of living.
Absolutely.
So if worker productivity is going up, why are their wages stagnant?
Absolutely. If you have somebody who likes their job, they don't even have to love it. If I like my job, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do, bang up job. I'm going to get my work done. This is like they said that he was one of the last governors to come on board with, saying, okay, so I'm going to cut it. So what are your thoughts on that, Andrew? And then you can talk about that also, Stephen.
Man, cutting the PUA.
Yeah, and it's like, do you think there was some hesitancy on his part since he was one of the last governors to say, okay, I'll do it? But do you think he was feeling some kind of pressure as a Republican governor? Because I do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Here's the thing is, and from watching him for so long, this is my theory. I don't know if you share this idea, but he runs a very sophisticated political machine. His administration, they're not dumb. They're very calculated. They're very calculated in the way they present the things that they do. This ploy of being the last Republican governor to cut off federal benefits, he's been trying to run this image of himself that he's some sort of moderate, reach across the aisle Republican. He is a closet neoconservative.
Right.
I mean, not even closet. I mean, he admitted openly to voting for writing in Ronald Reagan on on the last election instead of Trump. I think he wrote in his dad on the Republican primary or something like that. But
wow,
he makes no show of being an admirer of Reagan. But give this guy access to the national security forces. Give him access to the military. He's as much a war hawk as anybody else. He comes from real estate. He knows he knows the value of property.
One of my best friends told me he's his dad was a businessman, and now he doesn't know anything about what he's doing. I just don't think he does. He's grasping right now. Stop it. People need to get their benefits, and they need the $300. That $300 means, I can buy some more additional food, whereas people are cutting back. They're penny pinching because they have to. Now, I know these unemployment benefits do not equal somebody's pay. If you were making $30, $20 an hour, it does not equal your pay. So, Stephen, do you know about that? What's the max for unemployment? Do you know, Stephen?
the CARES Act was $300 above of what percent of what you would get. But for me, for example, uh, I was bringing home probably about $500 to $600 uh, a week. Sometimes it varied because I would get gratuity. I would work banquets, and so I would get a check or whatever every 2 weeks for about $1,200. And
Wow.
so now I get 390.
That is
Or when I was getting 390, and I'm also paying taxes
wow.
on that. So it's not this notion that people are living high
That is
off the hog is total propaganda. And
right.
also want to state or whatever, Hogan all the time. He speaks, when um, first Republican governors started pulling away from the CARES and turning away, he said, "Well, Maryland is different. We have a higher cost of living." That's
That's
true.
what he
Things are more
did.
expensive here than in other states or whatever because our proximity to Washington D.C. Um, Montgomery County, Howard County, they're some of the most expensive counties in the country. And so that's why but he knows or whatever that those who are getting unemployment are probably unlikely to vote for him. And so he really doesn't care. He'd rather have the backing of business interest. And what's one of the most disgusting things is we found out from one of the delegates that one of the biggest lobbyists who was pulling at Hogan's coattails or whispering in his ear to cut off the benefits
Uh-huh.
was the same grouping that was against the $15 an hour minimum wage.
Wow.
And these are the same grouping that exploits disabled and disabled people. People are blind, those who work for Goodwill Industries. So
Yeah.
basically, they were telling me we couldn't find people for work or whatever. They
Uh-huh.
want to exploit uh, people for below minimum wage, and they oh, but the crazy, they say they can't find workers to work for them, but after industries or whatever, we just got a call. They just laid off like half their staff and laid off blind people. So
Wow.
it's just heartless, and it's just oh, I mean, the whole so screwed up that I go back and forth. I don't know if it's just total negligence. I don't know if it's total malice. The fact of the matter is, Hogan has been having a strategy for day one, trying to destroy the public sector, public education, to you name it, whatever is funded by the government, he's been
Right.
trying to whittle away, trying to destroy
Right.
it.
Right.
And this whole shutting government down and not opening back up is his way of actually making so bad that people will turn on services and be mad at not at the mad at the right people, but
Absolutely.
mad at actual services, mad at social services, mad at those who work at Department of Labor, who
Energy
work
is
in schools, making people, instead of pointing the finger at who is really to blame, which is Hogan and his administration.
absolutely. I agree with you 1,000%. I want him to start.
Oh, one other thing, this notion about there's jobs, like in my situation, for example. Okay, they're talking about hospitality is coming back. It's only a percentage of hospitality is coming back. Some restaurants are opening back up, but there are not catering jobs. People are not having weddings. People
They are not.
are not having conventions, things like that. So basically, they want me to go and
Something must be Steven's
try to
internet.
find a job.
So where are they
Yeah,
sending?
Steven,
Where are they sending?
Steven, you froze up.
We'll come back
Can't
to
hear
Steve.
you.
Yeah, we'll come back to
We
Steven.
can't hear you, Miss Joyce.
You can't hear me?
I can hear
Or I
you.
can't.
Can you hear me? Okay. All right. We'll come back to Steven. Andrew, jump in there and talk.
Hello? Is it my
Yeah. I think your
Yeah.
internet is acting up, Steven. It keeps going out and coming back in. Okay.
Yeah, I know it's just started raining here in the Baltimore area.
Tell him to go out and come back in, Joyce.
Steven, go out, back in. Okay? I don't think he can hear me.
Okay.
Steven, go out and come back in, okay? Miss Van, can you type
Hello?
that in the
I can't.
hey,
My internet is going out.
I know, exactly. Okay, so
Yeah.
we can hear you, but it went out.
Oh, okay.
So Andrew,
Okay. There he goes.
you to jump in there and talk about,
Yeah.
talk about what Steven was talking about. Now, I'm
Yeah.
sure I was blessed to keep my job from start, the pandemic. I am not sure that the governor knows the actual percentage. Okay, does he want everybody to take a job in hospitality? Folks are not trained in that area. If that's not your piece, how are you going to get a job in that area? So folks are just going to hire you, and you're XYZ of company ABC, but you're going to go work in hospitality. A lot of the daycares did not survive. A lot of the hair salons did not survive. Barbershops. There are, like, oh my gosh, great numbers of businesses in Maryland that did not survive. My issue with Governor Hogan is oftentimes he does not include Baltimore City as being part of the state of Maryland. And I have an issue with that. But you go ahead and you talk about, so what's on your mind? What do you think about, this whole, okay, go and work at Ocean City and be a busboy or whatever. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I wanted to touch on a point that Stephen rose about Governor Hogan sort of like whittling away over time at these public services, because it's absolutely true. Since I've been watching him, he's tried to make public employment as unpleasant for public employees as possible.
Right.
That's just one thing. The second thing, we ran a struggle a couple years ago. And this was around when the MTA rolled out what is called the link. If you don't remember this was when, how do I describe what this was supposed to be? In name, what they said was this is going to make for better bus service. What it did was cut bus service, increase fares,
Absolutely.
and basically just put new paint on the buses. What we noticed about the new bus lines is that there would be increased traffic north and south, with decreased service east to west.
Okay.
And there were a couple interesting new bus lines. One that took you out to Sparrows Point, where Amazon ended up moving, and another that took you out to this new business park out in Hamden. a lot of the people that got involved with this struggle around the buses were elderly Black Baltimoreans who now no longer had any way to get to the grocery store, had no way to get to their jobs.
Right.
Even if they were retired, they needed to get places, and suddenly they lost their bus stop.
Absolutely.
Hogan has been running this concerted effort to just really stick it to public services.
Absolutely.
So that his buddies in big business can come in, they can demonstrate that public services are inefficient because he's set it up that way, and say, okay, these are all now private services. He's been doing it a little more under the radar than most people would, and I think he's been able to see a long history of, when governors try to privatize state services, the unions can fight back. I think he was very well aware that no matter how much he fought the union, it was still big and it still had resources. So, I think of also in the MVAs, the Department of Social Services, a lot of these places where there's direct public interaction, he has tried to replace workers with things like kiosks, automation. This was what the beacon system was an attempt at, was to remove all human interaction from applying in the unemployment process. And this is the disaster that results from that kind of thinking.
It failed miserably.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Beacon, I talk to people during the day, when I'm out in the marketplace, and they tell me that Beacon is the absolute worst, system that they could have come up with. I even hear stories that Beacon, is automatically, freezing people's funds.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
Do you know about that? Either of you?
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, it's people have been. They told they apply for unemployment. They are accepted. They get their ATM. They were getting their ATM debit card from Bank of America, who the vendor was at the time. They stopped that.
Right.
And then money would be going on their account, and then all of a sudden they would go use their card, and Beacon froze their card, so they couldn't access their funds.
Right. Right.
But we had a call today from a woman who is in IT. She's something specialist, analyst, one or another, one of those type of technical positions, and she got laid off. And she was telling us or whatever that Beacon, they they contracted out the system to a private contractor.
Right.
But the crazy thing is that then Beacon, their servers, so they contract out to a third party. This third party is contracting out to a fourth party, and a fourth party is contracting out to a fifth party, and the system is just totally crashed. I mean, so it's like they don't even know where to begin of what the problem is, and I think that was the reason why they told everybody to reapply. That they were claiming was because people extended the time, or they went over their time and they just need to reapply. But really and truly, I think it's because the system crashed.
Right.
And it was a way of delaying people, telling them they have to reapply. But it's such a mess. They should have never implemented Beacon, and they should have put a system in place that would be permanently under the control of the state. Even we would have been willing to wait a little longer if we would have had a system that actually did the job that needed to be done
effectively. Yeah. I hear lots of negative comments. I mean, harsh comments, towards Beacon and towards Governor Hogan. Now, I hear that Bank of America just backed out. So no longer can you have your unemployment benefits direct deposited to Bank of America.
You can have it if you have an account with Bank of America, but they were providing a debit card so that people could have their funds submitted to this debit card. And because of all this fraud, not from people, but the state was so negligent, they allowed professional hackers to actually.
Wow, are you serious?
We have one person who his account was hacked. He had $11,000 on his card, and somebody, he didn't even, they send you the card. You have to, open the card, and you have to give your name and a password or whatever. He called to activate the card, and they were asking him, well, what is your password? And he was like, I never even gave you a password. And
town hall, that is absolutely true.
And so I think one thing that people really haven't been talking about, and I think is, what I've noticed is that Hogan's administration is so corrupt. So many of his officials have been caught embezzling funds. Andrew was just talking about the MTA. The former head of the MTA, before they implemented this link system, was knowingly, he embezzled like tens of thousands of dollars. He maxed out all his cards or whatever, went on trips to Europe or whatever.
Wow.
And because it was such an embarrassment, he resigned, but charges were never brought up. And this was, a whistleblower. The whistleblower who told on the person or whatever, his administration retaliated on them. So I just say this or whatever because, it's, I think that there's some corruption going inside the Department of Labor.
There is.
So his administration is corrupt. And so they talk about corruption in Baltimore City. It's peanuts compared to what's going on the state level.
I absolutely agree. Andrew, you want to expound on that? Because Stephen made some excellent points. Go ahead.
I don't know what I can beat it, if I can beat it, but I mean, he's absolutely right.
Yep.
Here's the thing: is we submitted a Freedom of Information Act request.
Right.
We were requesting the number of people, of claims rather, that were still unprocessed, still unadjudicated. They can't give us those numbers. They haven't given us those numbers yet. We sent a separate request that requested how many people received the grant that you're supposed to get if you have an unprocessed claim for a certain amount of time. They gave us that number. It was like 37,000 something, which was surprising to me. But when I figured out that actually you only get that $1,000 grant if you did not receive your fact-finding call within 30 days. So all these people with unadjudicated claims, unprocessed claims, they could have gotten their call within 30 days, but then never heard a thing after that. They don't get that $1,000.
Right.
So,
wow.
and they're trying to claim, when this issue first got, we raised this issue very early on. The governor said, "Oh, it's maybe 2 or 3% of people who haven't gotten their claims."
Yes.
He didn't know. He didn't actually know. And so we recently saw this press release from Hogan's office. It was published by CBS, talking about the number of fraudulent claims. Now, the fraudulent claims they're saying are like close to 1 million. Here's the problem with that.
Please.
Under the beacon system, anything wrong, any little thing that you get wrong or don't upload correctly in the beacon system with your claim, it gets flagged as potential fraud. Absolutely. It could be, I heard a bunch of people say, I uploaded my identity verification documents, but because they couldn't see all 4 corners of my driver's license, it was flagged as potentially fraudulent.
Yes.
Right.
A young lady said that when we were at the town, at the town hall. That is absurd. That is just absurd. Like, and I'm sure there are thousands of incidents like that, Andrew. Like something, you're required to send in some paperwork. And so what about people who are not computer literate? They don't upload the documents properly. That's fraud. I'm sure there is some fraud, but I hear with this beacon system, it is the absolute system that's a fraud. And that's what they need to focus on. That's what they need to focus on. Stop and allow people to make some sort of a comeback. People can't financially survive on this unemployment, even with this $300. Now,
that's right.
Much better when there was $600 over. So what I hear, I hear people who are not opposed to Governor Hogan's, just cutting folks off at the knees. They're saying, well, when they were getting $600 more, that was more than I was making. Well, unfortunately, that's one of the things that you're going to have to deal with. But employment, these people are on unemployment and they need that extra boost. You're going to paycheck, for the long term. Unemployment eventually runs out.
Two things. I've heard that. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, Stephen, go ahead.
Okay. Two things or whatever. Because I've heard, I've walked by and I've heard people talking about Hogan is cutting off people from unemployment, so they don't have to sit at home and they need to go back to work or whatever, just like I do. And what people don't realize or whatever is that, one, people aren't sitting home like collecting and becoming a fat cat or whatever. It's the same lies that they used during Reagan and welfare queens and riding Cadillacs and fur coats, which was totally bogus or whatever. The other thing is that they want to force people back into the workforce, knowing that there isn't jobs, so that there be a permanent army of unemployed people. What they don't know is that, okay, you're forcing me back to work or whatever. So if I'm in such a dire strait, I'll go and I might try to take your job. I might try to take somebody's job or whatever, and be willing to work less amount of money that they're currently working at. So they're trying to create a situation where people are so desperate that they will take jobs for less than that people are working now. So the person that says, well, they need to get back to work. Well, you may be, the saying is, be careful what you ask for, because it's a situation where they're going to put people back to work jobs to try to find a job. And then people will be so desperate. So you making $15 an hour, person come back who's unemployed will work that job for $10 an hour. So, that's really it's a way to drive down wages.
It is.
And lastly, it's a proven fact that $1.2 billion of that money that could be coming into Maryland gets pumped back into the economy. People spend it on food. People spend it on bills. People spend it at businesses. And it's like it actually hurts the economy because you're creating a situation where desperate, it creates crime because people are desperate. And I think we will see a rise. And there's no coincidence that as things are going and progressing and is getting worse or whatever, we'll see the murder rate. We'll see more crime, more violent crimes, because it is a known fact that poverty breeds crime. And so, just be careful, like those who fall for the lies, be careful.
That's right. Stay woke, people. Have to. We can't be lulled into sleep. We have to understand the and again, Stephen, you make great points. In addition to that, this breeding of crime and murder and all of that, there are people who are developing mental health issues, anxiety, under such stress. People coming out of the doors of their homes in the morning, like, is my automobile still going to be there?
Right.
There are people who are hiding their cars, To me, come on, Governor Hogan. Come on now. You should know better. You should know better.
Yeah. And just to add on to that very, very briefly.
Right. Go ahead, Andrew. In 3D, we don't need Governor Hogan playing with the lives of anybody, not only Black people, but that's who he's doing it with. But there were a lot of, I'm telling you, there were a lot just like big numbers, huge numbers of all kinds, all ethnicities, talking about the unemployment crises and how they're not getting their money. The young man who lives with his grandmother, that just touched my heart. I'm like, he has to stop it. Like, so Andrew, we have about 10 minutes. Go ahead. Tell me what's going on. Miss Sharon posted something on Facebook today. Beacon's not allowing anybody to register or sign up for benefits. What's going on with that?
Yeah. Well, very briefly, I wanted to add to the severity of what this crisis is going to amount to. Absolutely. Is the CDC's moratorium on evictions ends July 30th.
Well, I hear it's
you're about to have. Oh gosh. Well, you're about to have an entire army of an entire new generation of people. Unhoused homeless people.
Wow.
What are they going to do?
Imagine
what are they going to do?
That's going to come from this. Wow.
And people who have jobs, they've gotten to see over the past year the power that comes from, trying to form a union, trying to organize for a union, trying to organize for benefits and higher wages. That's going to go on the uptick of people who already have jobs. People, right. There's the entire labor force of the state is going to be in a state of unrest if Hogan doesn't play his cards right. And this is his last term.
Right, that's what I'm gonna say. So, like, I want him to start packing right now. But go ahead, Andrew. What do you think is gonna happen? I want him gone. Because of the way he's absolutely just treated people. It's a human rights issue for me. It's a human rights issue.
It's a crisis of human rights.
Absolutely. Well, and is there so this lawsuit will I'm going to let you speak, Stephen. This lawsuit that the People's Power Assembly, this lawsuit, like, when's it going to happen? Like, when's the kickoff? Like, we need to just, I got to speak to Alec about that and see what's going on. Yeah, because people get serious. Again, I say, don't fall asleep. Don't be lulled into sleep by Governor Hogan. He is not our hero. Go ahead, Stephen. Go ahead.
Well, we are filing a class action lawsuit this Thursday. We're going into court. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not legalistic, so I don't know all the details about that. But I will say this, we're using every means at our disposal. We're using the legal route, but we're not depending on just the legal things, because, to be honest with you, I don't have much faith in the courts. So, but it's a process. People have to see us go through a process of trying to go through every channel, because if we don't succeed in the courts, then we're going to have to take it in our own hands, and then we might have to do some civil disobedience and direct action to get our benefits and our rights. So, it's a warning. The powers that be, they could do the right thing and release people's funds and, overturn and put an injunction in place. If they don't do the right thing, then we're going to have to up the ante, and that means, going to jail, civil disobedience, just like Dr. King did. And, it's related. But, Dr. King said the same forces that are against, the same forces opposed to, race, the same forces that are for white supremacy and racism are the same forces that are against everyday workers, white or black. And so we need to keep that in mind when we move forward. And the crazy thing is I think Hogan is creating a situation because he's attacking all workers, white, black, young, old, gay, straight. He's creating a situation where he's bringing about unity amongst workers, and for so long they've used racism to divide us. But now we're realizing, particularly white workers are realizing that they're in the same boat and they need to come together with other oppressed people, Black people and people of color, to actually win their rights.
You kill this, Stephen.
I was going to say the exact. I was going to say something very similar. Is you know, it was going off of something you said, Miss Joyce. It was people of all ethnicities talking at the town hall, talking at our demo in Annapolis.
Yes.
It's creating this what's actually an amazing opportunity for people to build class solidarity. Yes. Reverend Annie Chambers said this at our demonstration in Annapolis. It's a class struggle, right? Absolutely. I mean, in my experience in you know the public sector unions, you get people who come from, you know, all white backgrounds who you know by no fault of their own, they internalize some of these racist ideas that gets formed in that kind of thing. But they get involved with their union because they work and they're involved in worker struggles. They believe in it, and then they start working side by side with their fellow Black union members and realize, man, all these assumptions that I internalized growing up, they're wrong. Right. These are my brothers, my sisters, my siblings. That's right. So
embrace these ideologies. It's all wrong.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is since we're discussing all these things, you know, the public sector has been historically the sector where, like the post office, for example, is where, you know, Black women, Black people have found jobs that were stable jobs that they could buy a home with. You know, in the public sector, because of the laws that, you know, guaranteed against discrimination, a lot of oppressed people, a lot of people of color and Black people found work in the public sector. And so when Hogan attacks the public sector, he's attacking oppressed people and people of color because those are jobs that were well-paying jobs, just like how Trump tried to get rid of the post office. Those jobs, or a lot of people were Black women, were you know, people of color. So you know, it's all connected. It's all connected, and so
it is. Absolutely. We're going to wrap it up. Okay, so I'm going to give my final comment, and then we'll go to you, Andrew, and we'll wrap it up. What Governor Hogan is doing, it is very strategic. And I just have to keep saying it. We cannot be lulled into sleep. That's what he wants us to do. He wants us to fall asleep so he can sneak in there and he can do whatever he wants to do. We are not going to allow it to happen. You know, class action lawsuit, here we come. Andrew, your final comments.
Go to unemployedworkersunion.org. It'll take you to our Facebook page. Sign up, join us. If you can make a donation, we don't require dues, so because it's unemployed workers. They can't contribute money. But if you do have a job, you do have a little bit to spare, it would really help support us with a class action lawsuit. But you know, we're going to keep fighting on every single avenue. But the other thing is, people who have jobs, people who are in public sector employment, private sector employment, start fighting for a union. Because if Hogan realizes he can't use this to drive down all wages, then he'll realize this is a dead end road.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me.
Killed it. Yeah. Thank you very, very
much. Thank you.
On with me tonight. This is the People's Power Assembly. Absolutely support the People's Power Assembly. peoplepowerassembly.org. Call us, hit us up. We're going to be continuing this conversation in 2 weeks. Join us. Absolutely. Get well, Miss Fan. Love all. Good night.